Today, we are going to look at the story of a very harsh judge who was terrified to die and what the staff saw actually in his room at that time. You know, nurses tell the best ghost stories because they're true. Well, hello, my spooky friends. Are you ready for some more true ghost stories? I hope you are. I hope you're enjoying these. And so let's dive right in. We've got some good ones tonight. So I used to work at an LTAC ICU in Pasadena, Texas. It is a very old building, so old that some of our elderly patients remember it when it was a regular hospital and they delivered babies in the mother-baby unit of that hospital. So the ICU was an 8-bed unit, shaped sort of in a U fashion, with the nurses station at the middle, so we really couldn't see rooms 1 and 8. Therefore, they installed cameras in both rooms with a closed-circuit TV at the nurses station that shows both rooms. We had a frequent flyer. I believe she had cancer and would frequently come to us for rehabilitation after each short-term acute hospital visit. We all knew her, and whenever she came back, she would be so happy and say, "Oh, this feels like coming home." She was alert and oriented ×4 and was self-care. She would frequently get out of bed, dragging her IV pole and putter about in her room. If she was in ICU 1, the camera would only catch her IV pole with the piggyback going back and forth as she moved about the room. Eventually, she passed away in ICU 1, and until a new hospital was built and we moved, we would constantly see that IV pole with the piggyback moving back and forth in that room, no matter if the room was occupied or not. It was never scary or creepy. It was just there. I believe her spirit never left that room. You could be right if that's where she felt like she was at home. Sometimes it's just the people that you're around, and it's a little freaky, especially when you see it on the screen. I've had some interesting experiences too in that area. When my mother worked in a nursing home, she went under a false name years ago, and her name is Iris. She went by the name Rose. The patient said to her before she died that she was going to see her husband tonight. My mom blew it off until she said, "My husband said you wouldn't believe me, so he told me to tell you that you are a flower, but you are no rose." She died that night. Makes me happy knowing we do see our family after we die. Wow, that's pretty cool. He knew her name. I don't know why she was going by a false name, but, that's interesting because who is going to know that? So what do you think? I was a home hospice nurse. Just before my patient died, she was looking at the right corner ceiling in her room, smiling. "What do you see, Mary?" I asked. "My mother," she replied. Shortly, she passed. 6 months later, her husband is on hospice and close to death. He, too, is looking up at the right corner, smiling. I asked, "Al, what do you see?" "Mary and her mother." He closed his eyes and was gone the next day. Wow. I say wow a lot, don't I? But, it kind of makes you say wow because, that is pretty awesome. She saw her mom, he saw both of them, and, hopefully they are all happily reunited. And that does, when you're a nurse, that does do your heart good. You see a lot of bad stuff, but that makes you happy. Now, are you ready to hear this story of the evil judge? Another one from the long-term care. A very successful retired judge who was no longer able to care for himself came to our facility just to die. He had no family. Rumors were whispered that he had killed them all with his stare. He was a creepy one, and I always felt an evil presence around him. He was covered in bruises and skin tears from recent falls at home, and we had to keep him restrained because when he would get up, he would immediately fall. During the day, he was soft-spoken and polite, spent most of his days watching TV, but at night, when we would turn off the lights to his room, he would scream that he was on fire and thrash around in the bed so much that his bed would actually move around the room. No sedation worked. When we would turn the lights on, his skin would be bright red, eyes wide open, as if he was horrified and hyperventilating. One night he was lucid, so I asked him about it. He only replied, "I'm horrified of what's coming to get me. They go away in the light." The night he passed, when I would go in to check on him, I would see dark things slithering under the walls when I went into the room. The few minutes before he died, the dark things were under his bed, slithering up the sides, and lights were on in the room. And he was crying and screaming, "No, no, don't take me. No, no, don't let them take me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No, it's not too late. It's not too late. Please, no." He died mid-scream, mouth open, eyes wide open, with a horrified look on his face. Suddenly all the light in the room left, and it became icy in the room. As soon as it happened, the light came back, and I saw the black things slither back under the bed and out the walls. Rumor had it that as a teenager, he had pushed his sister out of the barn loft into a fire to cover up that he was abusing her. Then made a deal with the devil not to be punished at the time and make it seem like an accident. So what do you think of that one? Y'all nurses, I have seen patients very afraid to die. Most of the time, if you know they're going, you try to make sure that they go in peace. But, and I have seen many patients, pass away with a smile on their face, and that makes you feel good. Occasionally, I have seen some grimaces, and I've never really known. I've not had an experience like this with somebody dying and screaming. I have had patients that were afraid, but I don't know. I am not doubting this story. I have heard some people tell really bad stories about a death. So, what do you think? Think this one is true? I really don't doubt it. Okay, the next one. This isn't my personal experience, but one told to me from a coworker. We work in a long-term care facility. One evening, while feeding our residents supper, one lady seemed agitated while she was trying to eat. My coworker went up to her, sat down on a stool beside her, and asked what was wrong. She said, "There's a lady beside me that is bothering me." My coworker did a quick glance around and told her, "There's no one there." Our resident replied, "Yes, there is. She's standing right beside me. Make her go away." My coworker, not thinking too much of this other than the resident was confused, did a little punch in the air in the direction the resident was, and indicating this lady was, hoping it would make the resident happy. Next thing she knew, the stool she was sitting on was yanked out from under her, and she ended up on the floor. After she got up, she told the resident, "Next time, deal with your own ghost." I know a lot of people would say she probably just sat on the stool wrong and it flipped out from underneath her. And I mean, it could be, but it's very odd timing. We'll just put it that way. It's very odd timing, and it's not unusual for people to see, people that aren't there and talk to them. That's pretty common in dementia, but yeah, it's a little suspicious, the timing. So, it could be the other side. So we have time for one more. My grandma was a mental health nurse in Ireland in the 60s and had so many stories to tell when she was doing night shift. My favorite one was when she was doing night shift on Halloween in 69. She was working in a very old asylum. She was the nurse in charge. She was doing the hourly rounding on the patients she was caring for. When she walked past a particular room, Nan heard a rope snap. She peeked into the room, and it was empty. Then something fell onto the linoleum floor, and she saw a shadowy silhouette of someone hanging with moon giving it some light. Turned out someone had unalived themselves in that room years before she started working. Ooh. I wonder if they died on Halloween. Wonder if that's when it took place, or if it, just happened that, they say on that day. Supposedly, they say the veil between the living and the dead is very, very thin, and that's why it's such a spooky day. Anyway, what did you think of these stories? I am going to try a new uploading schedule and do a video for you on Wednesdays and Fridays. I hope you enjoy this. I know some of you don't like them. I am sorry, but I have fun with these, and I think a lot of you do too. Comment below. I would love to hear your ghost stories. If you're not in healthcare, that's okay. We'll do a whole episode of nothing but, your stories. So let me know, what you have, your grandma, whatever was told to you that you feel like is true, because I want to keep it authentic. And in the meantime, stay spooky. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.